When you're at the Mint, you're surrounded by all of your friends, your colleagues. There's art everywhere, so it's real easy to stay in practice. When you're on your own and you're freelancing, it's a different story. So what I started doing was copying some of the old masters. But I wanted to do it bigger. It kept getting higher and higher. And my wife said, just make it come off of the screen. Make it coming to life. And it kept going, and before you knew it, it was almost three-dimensional. And I thought, that's really amazing. And then it took off from there.
This is a final piece of the new Coming to Life series by Engraver Michael Gaudioso. It's a fantastic collaboration. This is going to be coin number 1 in a multi-year series done by Engraver. And essentially the concept is taking ex-Mint employees and doing productions of coins that have been in your mind, things that you've wanted to get out there. Can you elaborate a little bit? Yeah.
Well, Joe Mena actually jumped on one with the comics. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I hope it works really well. He had a lot of flexibility now that he was the chief engraver to push certain programs. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that early on. It was very strict. You know, this is what you do, and it was nothing like the early in the Frank Asparo days. They would put a coin out, 2 coins a year maybe. Nothing really got done. Now it's become a real collectible. It's way better than it used to be. There's programs we all talked about at the Mint that we would have liked to have done. Some people said they wanted to do cryptozoology from every state. That would be better than looking at state flowers.
Sure.
But at the same time, you have to think of what the collectors want. A lot of the collectors, they like the classics. So there's a lot of American mythology that you can do. It's endless what you can get done.
You get inside the design for the first time. And everyone, you know, on a typical Mint State coin, you can't even tell that she's wearing a robe. No. Or wearing a flag as a robe,
no.
Right?
No,
can't even tell.
That detail's gone.
The first time it really popped for me was the 2013, the specially enhanced design that the Mint did, the finish. That's when you could tell that there was stars, there were stripes on the robe. Before that, it just looked like a robe.
The original plasters of that up in the Mint, they show it, and it's very low, but it's there. But when they're struck, you lose it. You don't really see it. So it took a lot of research to bring out all the detail that's not necessarily seen in every coin that you get.
What was the inspiration behind putting together this new series of Coming to Life? What does that mean to you?
I just left the Mint. One of the main things you want to do is you want to keep in practice. So what I started doing was copying some of the old masters. When you're at the Mint, you're surrounded by all of your friends, your colleagues. There's art everywhere, so it's real easy to stay in practice. When you're on your own and you're freelancing, it's a different story. You have to do it yourself. Being here in Florida is a little different than Philadelphia. Philadelphia is surrounded with sculpture and museums. Florida is not quite that. Yeah. So I said, I'm gonna start with, let me recreate some of the greats. But I wanted to do it bigger. So I thought, oh, this will look great. Hanging on my wall, I'll do a nice relief. It kept getting higher and higher. And my wife said, just make it come off of the screen. You know, make it coming to life. She would come in, and she's my best critic. And she would say, that head's way too big, and she's really good at it. Yeah. And it kept going, and before you knew it, it was almost three-dimensional. And I thought, that's really amazing. So I said, I'm gonna try to make a mold off of it. At the time, I was looking at other mints or some CNC companies that would be able to shrink it down for me, and I wanted to try to, I was looking up pouring metal into molds, and if you can use plaster molds or what you can actually use to pour metal, and it's such a process. Then I met Bob Wilkie, and he said, you gotta turn that into a coin. And then it took off from there, and he started thinking of all of the other coins that we could do and to bring them to life. I researched all of the models that Weinman did, and I made a conglomeration of the faces to see what it would look like from 3 dimensions instead of just a profile. Right. A lot of them you really can't see. They're so small, you really can't see what's going on in a lot of coins. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to make it bigger, so you can get an idea of what's really happening. And then it turned into this, and it was a lot of fun. It was a challenge. Every head has this plane. I don't care who it is, thin, fat. There's a plane here. And it goes from here to the end of the jaw. Then it goes down.
Is there a weight or consistency of the material that you have to use for this?
No.
Just any clay?
Some people prefer hard clay. Don Everhart, for example, he always used a softer clay. Phoebe and Elizabeth Jones, they used hard clay, hard wax. It's all preference. If I were doing something that had a lot of detail, mechanical pieces, you really want to go with a hard clay. Because you just, for instance, if I go like, you just messed up an hour's worth of work.
Yeah.
With a harder clay, which is this, compared to this. This is like Play-Doh.
Yeah.
But for something this big, you really don't want to go with a hard clay. And the one thing you want to do is always maintain your front planes, your side plane, and your 3/4 plane. Because when you turn it, you always see the front plane. And if you turn it this way, you have your light. And without it, it's not a head. You always want to play with the light. And you get that light on the cheek. You want to bring that light to the nose. And then you get that light coming here. You want to duplicate that here. And see, everyone's face is slightly different, but it's all the same. It's a game.
And how long does it take you to put together a plaster that big? How many man hours are into that?
The sculpting, you can't tell. It can take you 2 weeks. It can take you a month. It's just, when you're faced with, okay, now I have to make this come to life, it opens up a whole new world of problems. Once you're finished that, it's not like painting. Painting, you finish the painting and you slap on a frame. Mm-hmm. Sculpture, when you're done sculpting, you're only half done. Now the hard part comes, you gotta make the mold. Doing the Liberty, she had to be cast in a cement-based plaster so that when I chipped her out, none of the nose, the ears, the fingers would break off. So you use a softer plaster for the mold, but you cast it in a very hard plaster. Then you run into another problem is it's really, really difficult to sand and clean up the hard plaster. So you do a rubber mold. The rubber mold can takes you all day. The plaster cast will take you all day. Cleaning it up, you could spend 2 weeks cleaning it, cleaning the letters, cleaning everything. And then once you make the rubber mold, you cast it in a softer material so then you have the whole thing as one and you can clean it up as you please. So the whole process can take you 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. It really could.
Yeah.
I mean, up at the Mint, people said I could work on this for a year if I wanted to. Because there's some of the coins, if you're reproducing one of the old masters, I mean, the detail is so incredible. And if you continue looking at it, you're always going to see a flaw in your work that you want to fix. At some point, you have to say, it's done. It's done. It's going to be reduced. You're never going to see it. But we're looking at an 8-inch plaster, and you do see it. So,
what's the process of taking something that size and getting it down to a 1 ounce coin? Give us a little insight on the technology that you have to undergo.
Well, for that size,
to get that done.
What they're doing is it's not like using the John Bouvier machine. That would, and I'm not sure if
that's a reducer, right?
It's an old time 19th century reducer, and that worked for coins a certain height, a certain level. But for now, the technology is amazing. They put it on a scanner. They put certain location dots all around it, and it scans the entire object. From there, it goes into a 3D program. You can remove pieces. You can turn it upside down, flatten it. You can do everything. It really has changed the industry.
Yeah.
The same way that the John Bouvier machine changed the industry back in the 19th century. The technology, it's spectacular. You couldn't do this without it. You couldn't do it at the rate we can do it without it.
Yeah.
If I were to do this on my own, I would have to have molds and ceramic molds, heat the metal, pour them myself, and then spend days and days and days sitting there chasing the metal. Yeah. And it would take 3 weeks to make one coin.
Yeah. With all your insight to the technology at the U.S. Mint, some of the other sovereign mints that you worked with and ones that we know you're going to be working with, where do you see technology for coin production over the next 15 years?
I think it made one of the biggest leaps it can with 3D sculpting. with all the ZBrush and freeform that they're using and being able to scan. The CNC machines is just light years ahead of, they're even better now than when I was at the Mint. I don't know if there's going to be that big of a jump like we had from the late 90s into the 2000s, but it's only going to get better. I just hope the traditional way of sculpting doesn't go the way of the dodo. And I don't think it will. It's too much fun. People love working with clay. Yeah. And I'm biased to it. I think it looks better than the digital sculpting. But I've seen some good stuff come out of the digital. And it's only going to get better.
What would your friend Joe Menace say about that? he's a big fan of the digital.
Joe's one of the, he's one of the guys in the industry that started the whole thing. He deserves a lot of credit. He brought that technology to the Mint. And he doesn't get the credit that he should. He's responsible for the U.S. Mint jumping into the new era of coin making. Him singular, he's the one that did it. How much further it's going to go? It's going to get better. It's going to fine tune, but we're not going to have any giant leaps. I don't think. This is going to be it. It just gets better.